community water reservoirs and minor lakes. However, there is still a deficit of around 1.13 metric tons, which must be covered up by 2030. Despite the challenges faced by the farmers, experts say and explain how aquaculture operates and how resolving the deficit issue can be actually settled down.
Uganda has a deficit of 1.13 metric tons, which must be covered by 2030, yet the lakes are strained because of poor and illegal fishing activities. Experts have explained how aquaculture operators can resolve the deficit issue. Godfrey Ofono, an aquaculture technologist, says from aquaculture alone, Uganda produces 120 metric tons of fish annually, yet there is still demand that can't be met because Uganda still doesn't have the capability.
You know, apparently, production of fish from aquaculture alone in Uganda annually is at 120,000 metric tons. And the target is raising 1 million metric tons per annum, that is by 2030. Apparently, we look at the capture fisheries, that is the main source of fish. Capture fisheries, these are fish that are caught from the lakes and rivers. The wild fish, the fish you don't feed, the fish you don't buy, but you just go to the lake with your net and then you harvest these fish. There is high competition for these fish because we have a very big market for fish, which we cannot satisfy. Since we cannot satisfy this market, and our main source of fish are fish from the wild, fish from the lakes and rivers, the best alternative is going into fish farming, which so far cannot still satisfy the market because we have a very high demand.
Due to high demand for fish, it's time for the business community to engage into fish farming. Godfrey urges Ugandans to have a changed mindset about fish farming.
Fish farming in Uganda, it may not only involve the support from the government, but even the private players themselves, which starts from the mindset of a prospective entrepreneur who would love to do fish farming. Then once you are into the activity, that's when we can look at other people who can support, including the government.
Despite the issue with demand, there are other several challenges that the sector faces, such as high taxes imposed on feeds that are imported.
Many fish farmers have a challenge of feeds. First of all, the cost of feeds are a bit high because many of the farmers who are doing commercial fish farming in Uganda rely on imported feeds. These imported feeds are taxed highly. Now, when they are taxed highly, at the end of the day, it is the end user, who is the farmer, who pays this tax. So if the government could be able to support these farmers in terms of the taxes that are levied on the feeds, believe me, fish farming will be a bit cheap because, you know, when you are to make money, the cost of input should really be lower than the revenue that you'll be able to get. But when the cost of production is high, then the marginal profit will go down.
With a deficit of 1.13 metric tons, which must be covered by 2030, Godfrey elaborates on how the government can achieve this.
Forward, first of all, is being in position to support any mushrooming fish farmer so that they are able to meet their targets. Because at the end of the day, when a fish farmer starts carrying out the activity and he realizes that fish farming is a bit expensive, especially in terms of feeds, then they may end up giving up. But if at all we are able to support them in providing feeds with high nutritious value, but also with an affordable cost, at the end of the day, these fish farmers will be able to progress and then we shall have fish farming expanding.
He further explains how aquaculture operators can benefit from their business.
Aquaculture refers to domestication or culturing of aquatic organisms, and we are looking at fish. Now, if we want to make aquaculture profitable as a business, any fish farmer has got to take records of whatever they are doing so that you know that from the word go, if you are paying a consultant who is coming to support you, take records of the expenditures that you are paying this person, take records of the money that you are putting into setting up fish ponds, take records of the fish feeds, the cost of fingerlings, up to even including the cost of paying the workers. Then, at the end of the day, when you are selling your fish, get to know how much you've been able to get. Subtract what you've gotten from the expenditures, what the expenditures from what you've got. Then get to see the revenue that you've got. If you do not take these records, at the end of the day, you'll be doing fish farming, but you are not able to balance your books.
Fish feeds are imported from countries like Brazil and Egypt. However, taxes imposed on these feeds increased to 6% from the 4% that was in place 3 years ago. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24, Prime Edition.
They are reporting for us. Thank you so much. And now we're speaking about fish and aquaculture. How best can we do fishing? But all that side, as people try to embrace fish farming, did you know that Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Fisheries is still looking up to you? Because there are regulations that were earlier on guided on. If you're coming into fishing industry, you need to know. You need to be registered, number one. Not only registration, but specifically on what kind of fishing are you going to do. It's like stages now, border stages. Nkolera Chiseka stage, my name is this. Okay, borders are free, they may not register different routes, whereas that's different. In fishing, you have to register the type of fish you're going to be getting out of the water. Have you registered for Nile perch? Have you registered for silverfish? Have you registered for tilapia? So that they know the kind of people to track down at the end of the day if at all things go wrong.
Well, and also mentioning about fish farming, I think it has become a very serious business. Back in the time, I literally thought it was more of people setting up ponds, fish ponds, and just leaving it there. And it is actually, during this time, I've realized that fish ponds and fish farming has become a very serious business, because it is actually more safer, reason being, at a moment whereby people who actually are having economic activities on the water are damaging the life cycle of these fish in the water. Because when you look at the water, the water levels first, then you look at the water quality, you can only wish, you can wonder how the fish even survive. But with the fish ponds and the people who are dealing with fish farming, you can see that they have a more organized manner, or a more
because
organized
you need to do research.
Exactly.
They have that because you have to first of all know what I'm going into fishing. Byenyanja, is it byenyanja?
Byenyanja.
Okay.
That's fish.
What kind of fish am I going to be fishing in my pond? That will allow you to create source of water, because not every, there is fish that is not going to be supported in salty kind of water. Whereas you know that someone in somewhere doesn't know that, hey, I need this for my fish. Whereas you have done your research, you have encountered, you have gone through at least processes, even encouraged or brought on board experts to help you towards your fishing. You realize you're going to be the best at it. But not forgetting now about the Nile perch. If we are to speak about Nile perch, is one of the most contributors now of our exports around the country. If we are to speak about the product that comes from there, the fish maw, which is now taxed at 7% from URA. Recently, it wasn't being taxed. Thank you, Joram. Tasked. Again. Did I mention the right word?
It's taxed.
Okay, you're teaching me here. So it wasn't taxed by URA. This was recently implemented in the last financial year when they introduced a 7%. You know why? Because it realized they realized that, hey, the most exports that are the most export revenue that is coming from fish is the amount is range from fish maw that we're exporting, and most consumers taking in from China, especially Chinese, and the UK taking the most fish maw. That is why you see government coming out to regulate fisheries and fish activities around Uganda, because if they don't do that, otherwise, where are we going to get the Nile perch again? Which is why you're seeing the rate at which fishing now will get no Nile perch. A lot of questions at the ports right now are being, there. If you recently visited a port or any fishing source, there is a lot of regulations that are happening, especially when it comes to a Nile perch. There are certain groups that are designed for the nail patch. Not just that you're going to come away from anywhere, Joram, and you're going to start venturing into fishing nail patch, because this is a very big source that is helping the economy grow through the exportation.
All right. And with that, let's take a short break. We do return with more of the business reports.
Smart 24, driving business. Smart 24, driving business.
God. Zizinga, wait.
Yeah?
Ka selfie.
Wow. Do you have the MyGo TV app? Oh, do you use *206#? Labono. Bwe kilife tekinakunyumira.